The views and opinions of this program are those of the hosts, guests, and callers. There is substantial risk of loss in trading futures and options, which you should carefully consider prior to trading. Well, it sure seemed on Friday and really Thursday session as well that we did the Tariff Tango in many of these markets as we closed out the week. Immense volatility in a lot of complexes. Corn was the bright spot, though, and we also saw the dollar was a bit higher on Friday, at least last I checked. So how do we make sense of all this? Let's talk about it. Joining us for perspective and analysis, Tommy Grisafi with Nesvik Trading and Ag Bull Media. And Tommy, are you worn out from the last couple of sessions, my friend? What wild volatility we've seen.
I had a good night of sleep till 5 o'clock in the morning, and then that came out about China, and I knew it would move the markets, but it really moved the markets and kind of caught me off guard, to be honest with you. Let's talk about the bright spot. Corn up on the week. Corn digested an incredible amount of information. Acreage number, ending stocks, the thought of tariff announcements, the tariff announcement, China countermeasure, other countries countermeasure. Some good things happened though. Late in the day, a country, I want to say it was the UK. So many countries, my squawk box is yelling at stuff at me all day, but maybe the UK came out and said, we're going to lift tariffs on American fish and American beef. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. So before we throw the president under the bus, let's give it a little time. But I tell you what, I'm laughing because if you are retiring today, there's a lot less money in your 401k if you're planning on checking out of the hotel. But you and I, we got a few more years working us. So, I'm happy because I love volatility. And that is such a selfish, self-centered, narcissistic thing to say. But from someone who owns a seat at the Board of Trade and likes to trade a lot of different markets, particularly, I have that background in the financial markets with stock index futures in the bond market. Well, the bond market is doing the heavy lifting. Jesse, listeners, viewers, what does President Trump want? He wants interest rates to go down. How do you make interest rates go down? Depreciate assets, right? Crude oil down $5 yesterday, down $5 today. Meats, this hurts to say. Cattle limit down, feeders limit down. I think I looked at my phone before we started recording. Hogs maybe limit down.
Yep.
These are big moves, and it's not a joking matter. So if I smile, maybe it's a nervous smile. If I laugh, maybe it's a nervous laugh. Maybe I'm just happy it's over. And sometimes as someone who doesn't farm and doesn't have cattle and hogs, that I'm one of the lucky ones, right? I get to get out of this alive and go on with my life and have, very little risk over the weekend. But for those people out there, I watch your show not just when I'm on it, but when others are on it. Mm-hmm. And every single analyst has been telling people they need to get hedged up, they need to get protected in cattle, LRP, do something. So now we get the event, and we have a major event here, right? Cattle are had their first really big down day in a long time, and they went out, offered throughout limit, and now I marked down where the Dow Jones was when cattle closed. It was down 1,500. Before we started recording, it was down 2,100. So we'll see if the stock market continues to go lower. If it has a bad Sunday, could be a different story. Could bounce at the end of the day, could have a great Sunday. By Monday, you might see cattle open unchanged and start their bullish fundamentals again. But no matter how bullish the fundamentals are, people are long cattle and there's people unhedged cattle, and they wanted to get out.
Well, and just thinking about all this volatility, and I'm glad you brought up cattle because it's had me concerned the last couple of sessions. Is this the event that puts the top in the cattle market, for instance? But, you look over at the volatility in stocks as well, Tommy. I mean, I wonder, I guess I'll put it to you this way. Is this a point where people should see all of this volatility and negativity, and does that finally jolt some people to get some risk management in place? Or is it more pertinent to kind of wait and see how this all plays out as we get into next week's trade?
Oh, it's interesting you say that, because over the last 48 hours, had a lot of phone calls for people asking to do paperwork. Hey, can you send me that link? I need to get something done in cattle. Well, you just can't send them a link, get an account open that fast, and get cattle hedged. You have to have a conversation about it. So the best time to manage the risk is before the event happens, right? The best time to check anything that you have an asset class and make sure it's insured is before you have the accident. You know what today felt like kind of like those people in Florida who have insurance, but then they find out they don't have flood insurance
Mm.
and their roof blew off and they got 8 inches of rain, and the insurance company is saying, we don't cover that. That's water damage. So you out there watching, listening, you got to understand what type of damage you had. There's still in the ag complex, there's some things that could really be great coming out of this. I'm not such a Debbie Downer that the world's ending. Let's talk about the positive. Gold hit a record high 3-4 times this week. Silver was at really great prices. It spent 3-4 months rallying and lost it all in 2 days. The cattle market. Cattle is at a price it was at a month ago. Let me repeat that. Cattle had a huge month in March. They're trading at where they were in March. So if you were scared in March, you shouldn't, if you weren't scared in March, with many people weren't, you probably shouldn't be scared now, Jess, except there's still something you need to do. And you could do the LRP, you could do the insurance. I bet you those phones are ringing because I got to double check, but with cattle limit down today, people, I believe, can write policies throughout the weekend, correct? Because there's not a report or anything.
I think so. I'm not entirely sure on that, though, as well. I would have to do some double checking on that, Tommy, but I think you are correct on that. So something I think we'll have to find that answer for sure, maybe talk about it in a future program. One other thing I did want to ask you about with crude getting down to $60, $62 a barrel, could that prompt the Trump administration to maybe refill the reserves potentially here?
That would be interesting. When you look at, I did a PowerPoint presentation for some farmers, and when you look at the commodity basket and where inflation is created, energies, crude oil, heating oil, natural gas, RBOB, and propane, and everything like that. If we can get energies are like 35% of all commodities. If we can get energies down, we can really get that talk of, hey, we've calmed inflation. Common sense would say if we really were serious about having that strategic oil reserve, then now would be the time to start filling it. And maybe that's something they do. But I personally think this administration wants $55 crude. And this is what's going to happen. I promise you, by next week, we'll all be driving around. I might be driving down to Nashville, and I'm going to fill up for $2.25 and go, this isn't that bad. This is amazing. Gas has come down. What happens when gas comes down? People want to travel. People want to go. It could be a wild summer of activity and short trips and commerce. Maybe we can get rid of some of those fuel surcharges. So all this inflationary pressure we felt, if we can get energies down, it really calms that. It'd be interesting to see if they do actually start to fill the strategic oil reserve.
Tommy, any other final thoughts you would share with folks here on the program today?
Corn closed up on the week, and cattle are exactly where they were a few weeks ago. I don't think anyone's retiring today. The stock market has been going up 25, 28% a year. That's not normal, folks. All that hot air that was put into all these markets is being taken out. Last and final thought. If you think it stinks in America when you look at the stock market or what's going on, what we're trying to do is make other countries feel extremely uncomfortable. And I think it's going to work. Thanks, Jess.
You bet. And Tommy, if folks want to reach out to you at Nesvik Trading and Ag Bull Media for a conversation, I know they could do it very easily, can't they?
Yeah, go to www.agbull and call the red phone over there. But the red phone's the panic phone. I haven't used that in a while, buddy. I dragged that out of the closet. Don't call the red phone. www.agbull.com. There's a QR code. Click it. Call me. I'd love to work with you.
Tommy Grisafi, Nesvik Trading and Ag Bull Media. Thanks for joining us, my friend. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Jess.
Make sure to subscribe to the Market Talk YouTube channel. You can watch our latest interviews with top market analysts in the country, find bonus content, and much more. It's easy. Just go to youtube.com/@MarketTalkAg and hit the subscribe button. Or you can search for Market Talk Ag on YouTube.